This is the Nike Tiempo Legend 9. It's had a pretty big makeover, and Nike say that it's the Rolls-Royce of their football boots, which is a pretty bold claim because Rolls-Royces are really luxurious. So, today I'm gonna tell you how they perform, fit and feel, and whether you should go and buy them straight away or just wait a little bit and see. I'm JayMike, and this is the Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Elite Review. The Legend 9 stays true to the Tiempo heritage, but is also shaking things up. You got a soft K-leather upper and a mesh tongue for a sleek, modern fit, some lightly textured foam parts for an elegant touch, and a lighter outsole, meaning that it's 218 grams and thus one of the lightest Legends ever. You get two variations here at launch. There's the limited edition Focus Pack, which is reflective, so pretty flashy, and also has these textured design lines from previous versions of the Legend. And there's the normal black pack, which is what all the other colorways are gonna look like. So the black pack has these little textured dots on the foam, whereas the Focus Pack doesn't, because it has texture everywhere else. But otherwise, they're exactly the same. When it comes to the comfort and the fit, thankfully the lower weight of the boot doesn't hurt the comfort as much as some people might be afraid of. But look, the Legend 9 is definitely a different experience to wear than the Legend 8. But you still have a very soft and plush and pliable upper that really follows the shape of your foot in a careful way that caresses your foot like you would expect a leather pair of football boots to do. It somehow feels tighter and closer to the foot than the Legend 8, which in comparison maybe feels a bit looser because of the quad fit mesh that adds this extra kind of free-flowing layer in between your foot and the leather. So it definitely feels sharper, the Legend 9, and more one-to-one with the foot. And okay, the leather itself might not be as ultra soft and pliable as on the Legend 8, but it's soft enough to feel familiar and comfortable from the moment you put them on. What's also really good is the shape of the heel, which Nike have designed to make it hug your foot tightly and securely, but without ever feeling the slightest uncomfortable. There's also the mesh textile tongue. While I don't exactly love it, and more on that later, it does add a decent and seamless fit that I can't be too mad about. The Legend 9 also feels similar to its older brothers by being reasonably wide and running more or less true to size lengthwise. I'm my usual size US 7 in this, and the boot felt pretty much painted on, but in a good way. So the Legend 9 feels lighter, it feels sleeker, but is still very, very comfortable. And that's a direction that I quite like. But the big sell, apart from the lower weight, would be the touch parts, which are essentially foam parts underneath the leather with a bit of a raw texture on top to offer a more elegant, cat-like touch. And look, I know that some of you lot will think, oh, that's a CTR 360 Maestri in leather. And while I would love to tell you that that's exactly what you're getting, I can't, because it's not. Look, the touch in the Legend 9 is very good, but it's not as hard and stiff and control element-like as you got in the CTRs, but more rich and soft and a more cushioned feel. Of course, you shouldn't expect to become prime Pelo all of a sudden by putting these on, but with that said, the little gritty texture on the touch parts and the touch in general makes it feel as if you get a bit more finesse and control when you're on the ball. And that's a nice little mental edge. Now the parts themselves feel a bit like the touch parts on the Copa Sense, but they feel less firm and a bit more squishy. And somehow the Legend 9s felt softer to shoot with than I had initially thought. Or one last thing, the boot also has a pretty low toe box, which means that it feels nice and nimble and really elegant, less chunky when you're on the ball. And that's a pretty big win for me. The outsole looks familiar, but is actually also new. It's a lot lighter, but also feels a bit stiffer and more explosive when you push off than the Legend has previously done. And if you've worn a Legend before, it performs like you would expect. You get a good amount of traction with a little bit of bite, a lovely rotational maneuverability, and Nike have also maintained a solid stability in the midfoot. So it does a job. I do have complaints though, so here are 4 annoying things that you need to know about. I mentioned the mesh color, which is okay, but it's probably done more for lowering the weight of the boot than for being nicer and more premium than the Flyknit we got on the Legend 8. Because it's not as nice. And because it is such a thin and lightweight boot, it might also be less solid and a bit more flimsy than hardcore leather boot wearers might expect. It's a personal preference. I have also had a bit of stud pressure a few times under my front foot pad, which is definitely not a deal breaker, but still unexpected. And sure, the leather is really nice and definitely better than what we get on the Copa Sense, but for me it's not quite still at the same level as the Mizuno Replica Cup. And if this is the Rolls-Royce boot, shouldn't it at least be on the same level? Especially since the Replica Cup is also a leather boot with foam pods that's actually lighter than the Legend. With that said, the Legend 9 is a really good boot. A little safe maybe, but it's easy to wear and easy to like, and it does a little bit of everything very well. And for me, it's a better boot than the Legend 8. It has been mercurialized, sure, and feels like a lighter and sleeker Legend 7, which is definitely not a bad thing, but it also does the Tiempo Legend name justice, and I reckon that if you like a lightweight, comfortable leather boot, you're gonna be very happy with the Legend 9 as well. It's a pretty safe option. I don't think that too many people will hate them, so I don't see why you shouldn't go and buy them straight away. And if you're hooked and you want them right now, you can get them from Unisport via the link right over there. But before you go and splash the cash, remember to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on. And of course, also go and learn how to improve as a footballer in the playlist right down there. With those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.